Every day, millions of people they underestimate themselves, and most of them don't even realize they're doing it. They look at successful people and assume those people were both born with some hidden advantage or some special confidence and some secret level of discipline that normal people simply don't have. But if you study the resilience, the performance, the psychology, the survival stories, the business, sports, and human behavior, you start noticing something uncomfortable and strangely empowering at the same time. People usually discover their real strength only after life removes the option of staying weak. And the truth is, you are almost certainly operating far below what you're capable of, and not because you're lazy, not because your lack of potential, but because your brain is designed to conserve the energy and avoid uncertainty. Your default mode is efficiency, not greatness, and that creates an illusion that your current limitations or your limits are your actual limits, and they aren't. Think about moments in your life that felt impossible before they happened. A hard semester, losing someone, starting over, working longer than you thought you could, and handling pressure you never imagined. And at the beginning, those situations they looked impossible. Then somehow you adapted. Humans do this constantly. We normalize things that once terrified us, and that adaptation hides evidence of our own strength because once something becomes normal, we stop giving ourselves credit for surviving it. Your mind quietly changes the story from I did something difficult into that just what had to happen. But surviving something hard isn't ordinary. It's proof. One of the biggest lies people believe is that confidence comes before the action. They think one day they'll wake up feeling ready and then finally go after things they want. But confidence is usually a receipt, not a purchase. You earn it afterwards. People who appear fearless are often people who repeatedly acted while uncertain. Strength works the same way. You don't feel strong first and then do difficult things. You do difficult things, then you realize you're stronger than you thought. The problem is most people never stay in discomfort long enough to collect evidence about themselves. They retreat too early, and modern life makes this easier than ever. Instant entertainment, instant delivery, endless distractions, and the second something becomes difficult, there's always an exit available. But growth doesn't happen because discomfort exists. Growth happens because you remain there long enough to adapt. Strength is adaptation under pressure. Look at exercise as an example. Nobody walks into a gym and immediately lifts what they're lifted years later. I've done that. It hurt. Muscles grow because resistance damages them and recovery builds them stronger. And your mind follows a similar pattern. Challenges, stretch identity, recover builds compatibility. But if you avoid resistance entirely, nothing changes. Another reason people underestimate themselves is because they compare their behind the scenes experience to everyone else's highlight reel. You see somebody speaking confidently and assume they never get nervous. You see someone launching a business and assume they never weren't afraid. You see someone succeeding and imagine certainty where there were actually doubt. People Most people carrying heavy responsibilities still feel uncertain. They simply learn that feeling uncertain isn't proof they should stop. There's also something called learned helplessness. If people repeatedly experience failure to feel powerless, they start assuming future efforts won't matter. They stop testing their limits, but the opposite exists too. Small wins create learned compatibility and capability. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence. And wake up when you said you would. Finish what you started and do one difficult thing. Keep stacking those moments. You're building a case file against the version of yourself that says you can't. And here's something people rarely talk about. Strength doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes strength is not quitting when nobody would blame you for quitting. Sometimes strength is getting out of bed during a rough season. Sometimes it's saying no, and sometimes it's trying again after embarrassment, and sometimes it's staying calm instead of proving a point. We imagine strength as intensity, but often it looks like consistency. Then the strongest people are not always the loudest people. They're usually the ones who keep moving after motivation disappears. Your brain constantly updates what it believes is normal. If today you can focus for 20 minutes, eventually 40 becomes normal. If today you ran 1 mile, eventually three become normal. If today speaking in front of five people scares you, eventually 50 becomes manageable. Your identity is more flexible than you think, and most limits are negotiable. and not fixed. But and that means every dream isn't guaranteed. It means your current perception of yourself is incomplete. There's probably a version of you 6 months from now who would laugh at things currently making you hesitant. Another thing worth understanding is that strength is not the absence of fear. Fear is information. It's often appears right before growth. People assume fear means to stop, but sometimes fear means important. Think about the opportunities people regret missing, and it's rarely easy decisions. It's usually the moments where they let discomfort make the choice for them. If you always obey fear, fear becomes your decision maker. And if you act while afraid, fear becomes background noises. Strength develops quietly too. Nobody notices the early mornings. Nobody notices the repeated attempts, and nobody notices the internal batteries. But eventually, people see results and call them natural talent. They're seeing accumulated proof, and there's a reason difficult experiences often change people permanently. Once you discover you can survive something, your standards shift and you stop negotiating with excuses that used to control you. You realize your emotions are real, but not always accurate. Predictors of your compatibility or capability are, and maybe the most important thing to remember is this: that your future self is not built by dramatic moments. It's built by repeated decisions that show you who you are. And every time you keep going when stopping would be easier, you cast a vote for a stronger identity. And every time you attempt something uncertain, you expand your map of what's possible. And every time you do more than you thought you could, you create evidence that your limits moved. So if you feel stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or convinced you're not capable of enough, understand this. Your feelings are describing your current state, not your full potential. You do not discover strength by thinking about it. You discover it by demanding something for yourself or from yourself and staying longer enough to watch yourself adapt. There's more in you than you've proven so far. There are harder things you can survive, bigger goals you can handle, and more growth available than your current self can measure. You're probably not weak. You're probably untested. And those are not the same things. Thanks for watching today's video. If you found value in today's video, please subscribe. That's all I ask. Without the subscription base, we can't grow here. And YouTube says I got to have subscription base. I want to see you on the next video too. I got another one coming tomorrow. I'd love to see you. I'd love to talk to you. Talk down in the comments section. I'm always there. And sorry, I'm under the weather today. So if I seem off, I apologize. I'm just trying to make it through. Have a good day.